In China, people are vanishing at a rate that defies explanation. According to widely circulated figures, 2 individuals disappear every minute, roughly 3,000 each day, more than 1 million every year. What makes this reality especially disturbing is the technological environment in which it occurs. China is saturated with surveillance infrastructure. More than 700 million cameras blanket streets, buildings, transportation hubs, and residential compounds. That is roughly 1 camera for every 2 citizens. In theory, such a system should make it nearly impossible for people to vanish without a trace. In practice, the opposite is happening. Disappearances are routine. Families receive no answers. No rescues are announced. No explanations follow. The missing simply dissolve into silence. At the same time, another phenomenon is unfolding across the country, one that suggests fear is spreading faster than any official narrative can contain. In city after city, people are urgently selling their homes, often at devastating losses, desperate to leave while they still can. Across provinces, piles of discarded national ID cards have been discovered in forests, garbage dumps, riverbanks, abandoned buildings, and even hidden inside caves. The question is no longer whether something is wrong. The question is what people are running from, and why. Panic in the property market. In recent months, residents of Beijing have been rushing to list their apartments for sale. Long regarded as the safest and most desirable real estate market in the country, the capital is now experiencing an unprecedented reversal. Bloggers and independent observers describe a sudden flood of "for sale" signs appearing almost overnight. One account described waking up to find 4 new sale notices posted in a single residential complex. Another claimed that out of every 100 households, as many as 99 were attempting to sell. Conversations that once revolved around where and when to buy property have shifted dramatically. Now the only questions are, have you sold yet? At what price? How much did you lose? Official figures suggest that between 170,000 and 180,000 homes are currently listed in Beijing alone, with hundreds of new listings added each day. Yet buyers are nowhere to be found. Prices are slashed again and again. Sometimes by half or more, with no success. One woman described purchasing her apartment for over 3 million yuan only a few years ago. Today, it is worth less than half that amount. Another property that once required massive savings and family support can now be moved into with a down payment equivalent to just a few $1,000s. Renovations that cost hundreds of thousands have become sunk losses. The collapse is not limited to Beijing. Across major cities, inventory is piling up. What was once considered a store of generational wealth has become a liability, something people want to escape before it traps them. The meaning of abandoned ID cards. Parallel to the housing panic is a deeply unsettling discovery being reported across the country: abandoned identity documents. In China, a national ID card is essential for nearly every aspect of life. Without it, a person cannot travel, work, access healthcare, rent property, or even buy a train ticket. Losing one is not a trivial matter. Yet ID cards are being found in alarming quantities. In one case, an ID belonging to a girl born in 2009 was discovered at the entrance of a cave near a reservoir. In another, a fisherman pulled up a plastic bag filled with ID cards from a river. Elsewhere, garbage dumps yielded piles of documents including ID cards, household registration booklets, medical insurance cards, bank cards, and driver's licenses. Police were notified in several cases. Officers collected the documents. No follow-up explanations were provided. For many observers, the implication is chilling. People do not simply discard the documents that define their legal existence unless something catastrophic has occurred. A shadow over the missing. In late 2022, a video circulated online featuring a well-known adventure blogger who had traveled extensively through remote regions of China. During one expedition, he filmed burned ID cards scattered inside an ice cave. He claimed they belonged to missing young women. He also reported discovering secret tunnels near a border region and hinted at the existence of clandestine medical facilities. These claims were never independently verified. But the footage existed. And shortly afterward, the blogger died suddenly during a climbing trip. Authorities reported an accident. Many viewers were unconvinced. For years, international investigators and human rights organizations have documented allegations of forced organ harvesting in China, involving prisoners of conscience, religious minorities, and other vulnerable groups. While the full scale of the practice remains contested, the accumulation of circumstantial evidence has fueled widespread fear, especially as disappearances continue without explanation. A remark that sparked panic. Public anxiety intensified dramatically following a high-profile military parade held in Beijing in September 2025. During the event, a brief exchange between China's top leader and a foreign head of state was captured on video. According to translated accounts, the Chinese leader remarked that in the past, few people lived to 70, but today, 70 was still considered young. The foreign leader responded by discussing advances in biotechnology and organ transplantation, suggesting that organs could be replaced repeatedly, extending human life. After laughter, the Chinese leader added that humans could live to 150 years in this century. The reaction was immediate and explosive. The video was swiftly deleted. Keywords were censored. But it was too late. Netizens circumvented restrictions and spread the clip across platforms. Searches related to 150 years surged by thousands of % within a single day. For many, the remark confirmed their darkest suspicions. If such longevity were possible, they asked, whose organs would make it so? Those who shared the video were detained. Some were accused of spreading fabricated content. One man was reportedly threatened with years in prison for reposting the clip. Lawyers and commentators ridiculed the explanation, noting the irony of grand promises of longevity amid waves of missing teenagers. Surveillance without protection. China's surveillance system is the most extensive in the world. Cameras monitor intersections, neighborhoods, schools, apartment lobbies, and rural roads. Facial recognition technology is ubiquitous. Data collection is relentless. Yet despite this, kidnappings and disappearances continue. In one recorded incident, security footage captured a man abducting a young girl in broad daylight while an accomplice waited in a van. What happened to the child afterward remains unknown. Statistics suggest that in a single year, roughly 1 million people went missing, an average of 2 every minute. In a society with such pervasive monitoring, this reality raises a disturbing question: is the system designed to protect citizens, or to observe them without accountability? A country that feels empty beyond individual cases. A broader phenomenon is impossible to ignore. Across China, people describe an eerie emptiness. Streets once choked with traffic are now quiet. Rush hour congestion has faded. Restaurants sit empty. Even at peak times. Delivery orders have reportedly dropped sharply. Some argue that migrant workers have returned to their hometowns. But rural areas tell the same story. Villages are empty. Homes are intact, furnished, and abandoned. Clothes still hang on lines. Firewood remains stacked. Schools and clinics stand unused. In northeastern provinces, this phenomenon has accelerated dramatically. Entire villages have been reduced to silent shells. In some cases, only bricks and weeds remain. In others, houses stand open but untouched, as if families left suddenly and never returned. Urbanization alone cannot explain this pattern. Normally, when people move, properties are sold or rented. Here, they are simply left behind. Official numbers and unofficial reality. Official statistics acknowledge a population decline of just over 1 million in a recent year, maintaining the figure at approximately 1.4 billion. But many analysts believe the true number is far lower. Independent bloggers and researchers claim that mortality rates among younger generations are alarmingly high. Some allege that tens of millions born in the 1990s and 2000s have already died, a claim impossible to verify, yet persistent enough to unsettle public confidence. Doctors warn of increasing cases of heart attacks and strokes among people in their 20s and 30s. Funeral workers report that many bodies they handle now belong to those born in the 1980s and 1990s. Some are teenagers. Meanwhile, COVID infections continue to circulate. While official messaging downplays severity, medical professionals quietly warn that transmission remains high. Symptoms linger. Reinfections are common. On traditional festival days associated with honoring the dead, observers note unprecedented numbers of people burning ritual paper offerings. The implication whispered among citizens is grim: too many people have died. A generation that opts out. Amid this landscape of fear and uncertainty, China's younger generation has reached a breaking point. Marriage rates have collapsed. Birth rates have fallen to historic lows. Home purchases have stalled. For Gen Z, these are not personal choices but acts of resistance. They see marriage and parenthood not as milestones, but as traps, mechanisms to produce future labor for a system they no longer believe in. They reject mortgages, car loans, and lifelong debt. They reject the promise that sacrifice will be rewarded. Instead, they choose to withdraw. This phenomenon, often described as lying flat, is spreading even among those from privileged backgrounds. A viral resignation letter from a young government employee revealed that even with family connections and inherited wealth, the pressure and meaninglessness of work had become unbearable. For employers, this shift is destabilizing. Traditional management methods no longer work. Loyalty is gone. Work is transactional. If there is no growth, no dignity, no future, young workers leave without hesitation. Economic shockwaves. The consequences ripple outward. Industries that once thrived on consumption are collapsing. Banquet halls are empty. Luxury liquor sales have plunged. High-end hotels have resorted to selling boxed meals on the street to survive. New regulations banning extravagant dining among officials have devastated the catering industry. Five-star hotels now compete directly with small family restaurants. Delivery drivers report orders drying up. Nightlife districts are dark. Liquor vendors face unsold inventory. Prices have crashed. Hoarders are trapped with losses. Analysts note that these measures are less about morality than necessity. The state can no longer afford excess. But the deeper purpose may be control. By preventing officials from gathering, dining, and drinking together, authorities reduce opportunities for solidarity and dissent. Society becomes atomized. Trust erodes. The cost of silence. What emerges from all of this is a picture of a society gripped by fear, distrust, and exhaustion. People sell their homes not just because prices are falling, but because they no longer feel safe. ID cards are abandoned because lives are interrupted in ways that defy explanation. Villages empty because something fundamental has broken. The government continues to censor, deny, and deflect. But reality leaks through, in whispers, in videos, in abandoned homes. In such an environment, the most dangerous thing is not panic, but silence. When people stop believing that the system will protect them, they begin to withdraw, to hide, to disappear. The question facing China is no longer how to maintain stability. It is whether trust, once lost at this scale, can ever be restored. And for millions of ordinary citizens, another question looms larger than all the rest: how can anyone truly be safe?